Thank you for viewing this YouTube archive of a Conscious Consumer Network broadcast. Please feel free to share it far and wide. Check out our weekly broadcast guide for weekly updates on scheduled broadcasts. Help keep us on the air by contributing to our network support fund. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter, or get in touch via email. We thank you for supporting free and independent media.
Television is not the truth. Television is a goddamn amusement park. Television is a circus, a carnival, a traveling troupe of acrobats, storytellers, dancers, singers, jugglers, sideshow freaks, lion tamers, and football players. We're in the boredom-killing business. So turn off your television sets. Turn them off now. Turn them off right now. Turn them off and leave them off. Turn them off right in the middle of the sentence I'm speaking to you now. Turn them off.
Stop her. An idea whose time has come cannot be stopped by any army.
Welcome to TLBTV, brought to you by the Liberty Beacon Project and broadcast on our good friends at Conscious Consumer Network, or CCN. The name of the show today is the PermaCube Revolution: safe water, food, and energy for all of us. On this episode of Eradicating Programmed Ignorance, we're going to discuss, safe food, water, and energy, and how you can be a part of this revolution to end our dependence on global corporations who have only their best interest, profit, in mind. Many are aware today of the poison foods and the toxic water we are exposed to on a daily basis. As these big ag, chem, and energy giants get richer and more powerful by the day, humanity gets sicker, less fertile, and poorer. And yes, this can be directly attributed to the food, water, medications, and environmental toxins we consume on a daily basis. Excuse me. It is well past time for change, and what we will present to you on this show is a great step to accomplish just that goal. Let's discuss the problems we are faced with and the available solutions. Please read the included information in the article published on the Liberty Beacon and also on Conscious Consumer Network websites, because we do have some pertinent information and links also available to you. Today we have two individuals who care for and worry about humanity and its future. So let me introduce them to you. My visiting co-host is Brian Porter, who also, incidentally, happens to be the individual responsible for bringing our guest to TLB's attention. Brian Porter is an activist and has his own radio show called I Am Nature on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. That's on Wednesdays at 10 p.m. in Studio B. His show focuses on making a difference and those making a difference, be it setting up eco-villages, community gardens, fighting to stop geoengineering, green energy systems, or anyone that wants of what he calls the 8 planet killers. To check out Brian's show archive, please visit his YouTube channel. And again, those links are available in the articles on Conscious Consumer Network and the Liberty Beacon. Now, today, our special guest is Jim Gale. Jim traveled the world, living in Australia, Africa, Asia, and a brief time in Pakistan. When he arrived back in Minnesota, he was 29 years old and had big goals. He started a mortgage company and quickly grew it to over 400 loan officers. His company did $1.3 billion in residential loans. He then traveled to Costa Rica and became an eco-village developer. His community, Osa Mountain Village, was written up in the New York Times because of the sustainable ideas that it implemented. Jim is a passionate permaculture advocate. He and his team have planted thousands of fruit trees, edible landscapes, and created many off-grid food production systems. Jim is also an inventor and has recently turned a used shipping container into a large-scale off-grid food dehydrator. His most recent invention is called the PermaCube Revolution. The PCR is a highly diversified and efficient food and energy production system. He and his team are just now starting to promote this system and other permaculture principles worldwide. So first off, let me bring in my visiting co-host, and that is Brian Porter. How are you today, Brian?
I'm thrilled to be here, Roger, and thanks for the amazing intro.
Well, I'm going to cheat and tell everybody it's what you sent me. But it's true. For anybody who doesn't know, Brian is a friend of mine. We've shared shows before, radio shows, and Brian, in my eyes, is what true activism represents. Brian, you're a man of your word, and the word you put out is one that should be listened to and taken to heart. So I very much appreciate you being here.
Thanks, Roger.
Now let's bring in our special guest. Jim Gale, how are you today, my friend? So glad to have you here.
I am so glad to be here, Roger. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Biggie, in the background for help with all the details. And thank you very much, Roger, for all of the activism and all the work that we do and that you spread. It's time. The world has to either grow up now or we're screwed.
Okay, don't hold back. Tell us how you really feel. All right. I want to throw a few things out and then let's start a discussion, okay? We're talking about food. We're talking about renewable food. We're talking about clean water. We're talking about clean energy. We're talking about things that people can do to make a difference in their own lives, in their families' lives, in their children's lives, and in the lives of all of those in their community. So listen to a few facts I'm going to throw out to you, and then let's start a discussion, and we'll open this up with you, Jim, because I know you have a lot to say about this. Some of the facts that people are not aware of is that Americans throw out over 40% of the food they buy due to spoilage. The British throw out approximately 33% of the food they buy due to spoilage. The Swedish throw out 25% of the food they buy due to spoilage. And of course, these are approximate numbers. This does not even take into account food that perishes during long distance shipment. Meanwhile, about 1 billion people globally go hungry daily. The food wasted would sustain nearly all of them if at a minimum level of caloric intake, just at that level. GMO infiltration into our food supply has reached 80%, especially in processed food, and some researchers will tell you it's actually higher than that. Most of our food contains toxic levels of carcinogenic pesticides and herbicides, and here's something most people don't know, including a large portion of the so-called organic grains, peas, and beans, which use glyphosate, a known carcinogen, as a drying agent. So we're looking at a food supply and a water supply. And for anybody who doesn't know, what's gone across the United States virally over the last 2 months is the testing of water in local communities, municipal water supplies, showing that they contain toxins such as mercury, such as lead, such as aluminum, such as glyphosate, so on and so forth, at toxic levels, which we consume every single day. So we're drinking water that isn't safe, we're eating food that isn't safe, and we're wasting a vast amount of food, enough to feed every hungry person on this planet, at least to a minimum caloric level daily. And you have to say about this, Jim?
It pisses me off royally, and I went through a really tough time in life, I think, as we all did. In fact, I was watching your videos and I heard some stories about how the transformation happens. For me, it happened back in 2007-8. I was aware that things weren't right. I had 17 rental houses in 2006, and I sold them all. My mom's a great realtor. I said, Mom, sell all of them. We're in a bubble. Luckily, I got the chills, and I sold them all. And the last one sold my personal house in August of 2008, right before the crash. So I was aware that something wasn't right, but I had no idea until I was sitting with a bunch of crazy people down here in Costa Rica that were talking about the problems and 9/11 and the Fed and all this crazy shit that didn't make any sense to me because I was bought and paid for by the system. And I told them, with a smile on my face and trying to muster as much respect as I could, I said, "You're effing crazy."
If that's the case, Jim, I'm effing crazy.
Exactly.
Because you've been to the Liberty Beacon and you know what we talk about.
Yep. And I went home and I watched the movies, Zeitgeist and the other movies that they told me to watch, some Alex Jones, some different stuff. And I was blown away. I went through several years of major cognitive dissonance. I was just a mess, but I couldn't help it. I had the time because I had saved enough money in the different companies to fully immerse myself. And I'm a skeptic. I don't believe anything unless it's proven to me.
Agreed.
And
Agreed.
It has been proven to me beyond any shadow of a doubt that our corporations run our world for profits, and there is no, they don't give a shit about our health, even though they imply they do through their beautiful advertising. It's a joke. So I started getting into solutions. I've always been a solution-oriented guy, and I started asking new questions. And folks, it's all about new questions. First, you got to get a why that's big enough. And when you do your own research, the why will become abundantly clear. There's so many people that everybody on this listening to this knows that are sick right now. Ask why. Why? The human body shouldn't be sick. If you eat proper foods, you will not be sick. If you exercise, well, most people aren't doing either one of those things. So I'm starting to rant, but anyway.
Well, that's what this show is all about.
Well, beautiful. So I got into the solutions and I started asking new questions. How can we do this? The why for me is over the moon. I don't need any more whys. I actually quit watching a lot of this stuff 8 hours a day. Now I'm only maybe watching it an hour a day just to keep up on what's going on currently. But I focus the rest of my time on solutions. How can we create the sovereign man, the sovereign woman, the sovereign family, the complete independence from the system? And guess what? It's ridiculously easy. Easy being a relative word, okay? Relative to the pain and suffering that we're going to go through unless we do this. That's my firm belief. And I hope somebody proves that I'm crazy. I hope somebody proves to me that I'm wrong. I know I'm not, but I'm open to the idea that I could be. But on this one, I know for sure that we can.
I can tell you the reason you're on this show today is because I know for a fact you're not crazy. Now, that being said, I do want to bring Brian into this conversation because, Brian, you look at a lot of this, you rail about a lot of this, you discuss a lot of this. I know you've done a lot of research into this. We're looking at, and let me preface this before you jump in, the United States of America, and you mentioned the corporations run the world. Okay. And I've said this on several shows before, so our audience probably has heard this. Princeton has stepped up to say the United States is no longer ruled in a democratic process, but is an oligarchy. What is an oligarchy? It is the rule of an elite caste. Who are these elite caste? It is the cabal you discussed, Jim. It is those who run the businesses, those that run the monopolies that basically own America, that basically own just about every nation on this planet. Every nation on this planet except 3 have what's called a Federal Reserve or a central bank. All of these are run and owned by this elitist caste. But according to statistics, Brian, when I was born and when you were born, about 3 generations ago, we were born in Canada and the United States into what was considered the healthiest societies on this planet. Okay? 3 short generations later, we are the most chronically ill, America being #1 nation on this planet, having the highest levels of cognitive dysfunction, which are Alzheimer's, dementia, autism, ADHD, and I could go on. The highest level of autoimmune dysfunctions and deficiencies, the highest level of childhood diabetes, highest level of childhood cancers, highest level of food allergies, so on and so forth. We are existing, and Canada's not too far behind us, in the sickest society on the planet, yet we spend 10 times more every year on healthcare than our closest rival nation, and we get the most vaccines, we get the most GMOs, we're exposed to the most fluoridated water, we get the biggest fallout from geoengineering, we are the most drug society on the planet. Gee, Brian, can you tell me why we live in the sickest societies on the planet today? I see the smile on your face, so I know you've got to have something to say about this. Please do, my friend.
Well, it's because we're no longer nature. We are, in essence, a natural being. 90% of the cells in our body are microbial. In other words, they exist outside of us in nature.
The microbial cells far outnumber the cells in our body.
Yes, we are more nature than we are human. And what are we trying to do? We're trying to live outside of the system that we're created from. I mean, it's absolutely insane. This is why we're so sick. This is why our kids can't think straight anymore, because we got to get into the system. What do? We have this beautiful system, this pack animal family system that is really our place in nature. We came here, the problems didn't start with the Constitution or the Revolution. They started back in the mid-1500s when the European warlords came here and decided to decimate a beautiful place called Turtle Island. This is what they called it. 1,200 distinct groups of natives living in harmony with the planet, not in perfect harmony with each other. Like, there were conflicts, right?
Yes.
But at least they weren't killing the mother. I mean, we're not going to make it much further, folks, if we keep killing the mother. It's already half gone in the last 40 years.
There are some researchers who actually would say that due to the GMO proliferation, okay, and and other things, the biotoxins such as the pesticides and herbicides, that we are at a threshold right now where nature may not be able to recover from the damage we have done. Would you agree with that, Brian?
Well, there's all sorts of people writing books about the sixth mass extinction. I think there's like 3 or 4 of them now.
Yes.
So no, there's no doubt that, and with the amount of just radioactivity alone we put into the biosphere from nuclear testing, nuclear energy everywhere, Fukushima, big accidents, Chernobyl, 3
Island
US that are really leaking really severely that the mainstream admitted. We have the highest tritium allowable limits. I think it's the same in Canada. 7 million parts per billion of radioactive water that we're allowed to drink every day. I mean, we have to realize that the scientific community has been taken over.
Well,
by the bad guys. They are not warning us. They are not putting out the real data on how toxic this planet is. They have just created like you say, an ad for everything to try to explain away the bad news. But the solution is what Jim is doing. This is what, and I've been doing this now for close to 40 years, eating natural, drinking, good, structured, clean water. Luckily for Jim, I mean, he lives in Costa Rica, a place that's relatively untainted by this stuff.
Industrialization.
Yeah.
Let's go a little bit further. Let's talk about one more thing, and then I'm going to toss this back to Jim. Here's a for instance on how the government not only isn't helping, but in the dark of the night, they're stabbing a shiv into our backs. Tuna and fish, okay, canned fish, has a specific level of radiation that was allowable for years. And the government health agencies determined this level because they knew that anything above that would be damaging to the human physiology, okay? They knew this. So after Fukushima, about a year later, you take a look at the specific radiation levels in these tuna, in these herring, and whatever else that's caught and canned and shipped to us to eat. And in the dark of the night, the government doubled the level of allowable radioactivity in those products that we eat. Hold on a minute. hold on a minute. Umpteen years ago, they did massive research and set a specific level that should never be exceeded because it would cause damage to the human physiology. But in the dark of the night and under pressure from these big food companies, they doubled, just like glyphosate. Glyphosate was given a specific level of residual allowed in our food. Anything above that, this is a carcinogen, people, is considered damaging to the human physiology. Well, they use so much glyphosate that it causes now what's called super weeds, which takes 3 times as much glyphosate to kill the weeds now than it used to. So in order to be able to sell their products in the dark of the night, the government doubled the allowable level of residual glyphosate, or cancer-causing carcinogen, okay, based glyphosate on our food. What is the fastest rising issue on the planet today? It is childhood cancer. All right, so one more statement, then we toss it back to you, and this is what I want to open it up with, Jim, and then after this, I want to segue into what is a PermaCube and how can it help humanity. But first, talk to this. The generation, the last generation born, in my case, my grandchildren, in your case, your children, okay, are the first generation that scientists are claiming will have a shorter lifespan than their parents do. 70%, as you heard in the opening, 70% of our children suffer from catastrophic diseases that will affect them for an entire life. We're suffering, last year, the United States suffered a 318,000 birth deficit over the norm. So here we are, all right? We're looking at shortening the lifespan of humanity. This is the food, the medication, the water, and the air. And the medication. This is what's happening. Jim, all right, I'm taking the leash off. Growl, my friend.
Oh, God. Did you just say that last year there was a 300,000 birth rate deficit?
300,000 birth deficit. Yeah, well, I believe, excuse me, I believe that was in fiscal year 2014. So it would have been about a year and a half.
That's amazing. Well, so I have committed to myself, after being an advocate and a loudspeaker for the problems for many years, I have committed to focus on the solution and talking about the solution. Can I jump into that? Because that is what's going to change the world. With the why is beautiful. We have to know the why. And then the solution is permaculture. It is growing your own food, which is relatively easy to do. In fact,
but what if you don't have 2 acres of land behind your house? And of course, I'm setting you up here, my friend.
No, that's the beauty of this. Now, you know, okay, so the revolution, we called it a revolution for a reason, the PermaCube revolution. It's because we need to learn how to grow food permaculture style. That means you can take a wall in your house and create a system that grows all the greens you need on your freaking wall. Like, you don't have to use a square foot of space and then maybe 8 feet off the ground, and you've got all the greens you need. You can do this everywhere, every rooftop. In fact, Brian just told me this stat. I'm not going to steal it to him without giving him credit, but the roof space in almost all of our cities is enough to grow food, and in the other areas, that'll feed the whole city. These things, these aquaponics and hydroponic systems now, they are, the technology today can do it.
Well, hold on one second, Jim, because you brought up such a vital point here. I did a show with an individual who runs a project in New York City and Jersey City, whereby they go around to all of the vacant lots in the city, the lots that aren't doing anything, and they set up city gardens. Beautiful. And these gardens only produce food for the needy and the people who cannot afford to feed themselves. This is such a phenomenal, but when you consider what you and Brian have discussed in the past, the available roof space, my God, we could feed the country. Nobody.
We need no agricultural land. If we do things a using the methods that Jim has developed for his system. Now, these methods existed before Jim, but Jim has found a way of doing it in a very compact way, which is fantastic because then almost anybody on the planet can use it.
And I want to speak to permaculture. And
please roll with that. Roll with it, my friend.
Well, okay, so we've got some amazing people, Bill Mollison and Jeff Lawton and Scotty, geez, his last name, but he's a permaculture guru. I've met him several times, walked my land with him, and these guys are the shoulders of giants that we're all standing on that have created a movement that allows us to have the wisdom. You know, one of the first principles of permaculture is observe. You know, observe nature and mimic nature, and maybe you add a little bit here, add a little bit there. You know, that's what the beauty of permaculture is. Anybody can do it, and it doesn't cost almost anything. So for all of the people in the world, which is the vast majority, who are hurting for money right now, you don't need any money to do this. You know, and our revolution is about teaming up with wonderful people like Roger and Brian and Dan the Daily Prep and all these other amazing people to get this knowledge out there. We're going to do consulting for free, loads of videos. Everything is free. If you want, you know, to buy any of the products, that's fine. But that's not what this is about. This is about changing the world grassroots, and it has to start with you taking action today or tomorrow.
Can I interject something here?
Yeah.
Because this is the perfect spot to do that. I'd like to announce to everybody watching this show that Jim and I have partnered up in an information sharing project with the Liberty Beacon to get the word out. And I cannot imagine a better individual, a better organization, or a better idea to partner up with. And for that, we thank you very much, my friend. Please continue.
Well, thank you. What you guys are doing is the platform that's needed around the world. And thankfully, a lot of other people are getting the message, you know. I want to go back again to this idea that it doesn't have to cost anything. You know, when Cuba got their money pulled out from the Soviet Union, they starved, but it was a priority. They had to grow food. In Venezuela, it's happening right now. Guess what? In Venezuela, in 2-3 years, yeah, a lot of people are going to starve in the meantime and are starving because they didn't do this 2-3 years ago. But guess what? It might happen in the United States. Now, I'm pretty sure it will because all, you know, empires come to an end. So is it going to happen in 2 months or 10 years? It doesn't matter. Get prepared now. Have fun with it. Teach your kids. My biggest passion is teaching the kids. The first PermaCube revolution went in my daughter's school. And thanks to the president of the school, who gets it, by the way, he was like, I love this idea. We got to teach our kids how to grow organic food. Kids don't know that. Farmers are getting old. And most farmers in the United States don't even know how to grow food the natural way anymore.
Or they're growing GMO food. So let's roll into this. What is PermaCube? We talk about non-GMO food. We talk about clean water, and we talk about clean energy. So let's break that down just a little bit. And once you've gotten through that description, there's something I want to bring Brian back in on, because Brian it just doesn't look right to have Brian sitting there saying nothing. I'm not used to Brian saying nothing. But go ahead, please. Tell us what PermaCube is. Tell us about clean food, clean water, and clean energy, and how we can do this ourselves.
Absolutely. Okay, so the PermaCube revolution is a structure that is the most efficient and diversified food and energy production system that I'm aware of in the world. Now, this can either be made. There are people who can make these. The first one we made just, with local materials, or you can buy one. And here's what it does. It combines a series of food growing technologies, old school and new school. All of them, like the aquaponics piece, conserves 90 to 95% of water compared to traditional agriculture. The grow beds that we have a special technique where they use spongy material like newspapers and cardboards underneath to suck up the water. It comes in and it holds it for the roots so it doesn't just drain out. So you walk in and you walk through the greenhouse with aquaponics and grow beds. Now you can either do double aquaponics or 2 natural grow beds. It depends if you want to be on or off grid or if you want to get the solar off-grid package. Then you walk into the system, and inside the system, and this I know real well, is a dehydration unit. The solar turbo heaters on the outside suck in the hot air, and they blow it through the boxes inside, which have trays on them, and that air takes out the moisture of the food, and you can store this stuff for years. In fact, with proper packaging, with a little bit of vacuum seal and a little shot of nitrogen, 5 to 20 years for a lot of foods is a life storage capacity. That's amazing. So you can grow food all summer.
You just said something the preppers would definitely be interested in, because these people are, they're expecting, okay, a catastrophic failure of the economic system. They're expecting chaos in the country. They're expecting to have to do for themselves. And I got to tell you something. You put canned goods in a in a damp fruit cellar or whatever they're called today, and within a couple of years you find rust on them. You see rust on a can, don't you dare open that up and eat it, because your ass is just asking for trouble. But what you're talking about totally bypasses that whole situation.
And it saves the nutrients. That's the beauty of it. We're not cooking food, we're dehydrating. It's a 24-hour to 48-hour. Turned it into a large-scale dehydrator, and I created a company with my partners called Costa Rica Naturales. We do mangoes and bananas, papayas, curcuma and ginger are amazing health products, which is turmeric in English, I guess, turmeric. So that's 2 pieces of the puzzle.
All right, you've got me salivating here. You got to send me some of that.
Oh, it's amazing. My daughter would rather have this than sugar candy, which is just great.
Of course. Let me hold you just for a second here, because I want to bring Jim in. Brian. And Brian, how did you meet Jim? And obviously the two of you have clicked on so many ideas. Okay. Where do you see what Jim's doing, advancing the ability of us to claim independence from these large ag and chem companies? Where do you see what Jim's doing going? Because I'm starting to get a lot of really good ideas in my head.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're endless, actually. When it comes to renaturalizing all processes on the planet, which is something I strongly recommend, because we are nature, we better start doing everything by natural methods. Jim is just, the tip of the iceberg in terms of what needs to get done. But this is the beginning. This is the crucial. We have to set priorities.
Well, at least you called him the tip.
This is the beginning. We got to have good food and good water, and then a lot of the other problems will go away. I don't care how toxic the environment, folks. This is your best chance. If you have good food and water, you can survive. You might get sick. You might get, chemtrail, flu, whatever, but it'll keep you going. And then we have to take other steps. But this is the beginning. This is fantastic. This is what's going to keep us going. And then we can build on that, right? But getting back to your initial question, I met Jim on my show. I invited him on as a guest. I heard about him through another friend of mine in Costa Rica who's also doing something similar to Jim. He's behind Jim in terms of his progress, but he just started a year ago. So he's doing a great job. His name's Bruce McDonald. And I also have, as you know, I've had a lot of people on from the big movement. We're going to have a conference call with her in I think it's about a month now, Jim. We're going to talk to the president of the Global Eco Village Network. Oh, here's 20,000 eco villages all over the planet. They have developed this network. Now they haven't created all the eco villages, but they've connected them together. So this is the key. We have to come together as the people with the voice for the future.
Community.
Exactly. Yes. Everybody's independent, but we're going to work together because we all know that we need the mother. There's really only one rule here. We all need Mother Earth. Folks, stop that, Tom. We've made everything so bloody complicated to appease these damn cabal buggers who have taken over everything and made everything so complicated, when all we really need to do is learn how to eat again, learn how to drink again, learn how to make community again. Now, that's the next piece. That's
yes.
But, I mean, it's coming.
That's huge. That piece about community too, that I've learned a lot about the ins and outs and the trials and tribulations. I have made more mistakes than most people have made efforts. I've also made, some wise decisions, and I've learned a lot along the way.
Well, I got to tell you something in your defense for that, okay? I'm 61 years old. I'm a little over 3 generations old, okay? I've been accused of, and I say that with a chuckle, of having a lot of wisdom. Well, what is wisdom? Is wisdom intellect? No. What wisdom is, and this is where I jump into what you just said, wisdom is having lived long enough to make a million mistakes, but learning an invaluable lesson from each and every one of them and taking that lesson to heart. I have made more than my fair share of mistakes, but I have this phenomenal memory that doesn't let me forget. When I start to do something, the first thing that pops into my head is, you've been down this path before. Remember what the results were? So our smartest are not always our wisest, and intellect never guarantees wisdom. So I would say what you have acquired, and I can see it in what you're doing, is the wisdom to know and understand the mistakes that have been made.
Yeah, and I'm working on it every day, of course. So the PermaCube revolution. So I want to make sure people understand that when I talk about solar turbo dehydrators, I'm talking about a black mat with some plexiglass over the top of it. It sounds complicated. I want you to know it's not complicated. What I've done with my team, who've done amazing work for us, for everybody, is just taken simple things that are available to you. You can do them yourself. And I've put them together in one package. Everything has already been proven. It works. There's no question it works. You can go online and see that it works all over the world. We put it together in an efficient space. So anybody who says you can't do this yourself is a salesperson with no integrity.
Anybody who says you can't do it yourself is an agent for the individuals who are perpetrating the evil against us. Because if this word gets out, which it's going to, I guarantee you it's going to get out. Okay? These are the people who don't want this kind of message to get out. They want this dependency. They need this dependency. Global governance, which is exactly what all of this is tying into. Global corporate governance is dependent on dependency. If you take that out of the equation, their power evaporates like smoke. Poof, gone. And this is exactly what you were talking to, Brian.
And that's why they're creating zombies through our school systems.
Don't go there. That's another whole show.
Can we finish the explanation of this incredible system that Jim and his friends have developed? You didn't talk about the chicken coop or the aquaponics.
Oh, go ahead.
I didn't talk about 2/3 of it so far, but I sure am going to now. This system has an attachable, detachable chicken tractor as well. And if you don't know what that is, look it up online. It's a very efficient way to manage chickens and also manage your lawn. Simple as heck too. It's a simple mesh container with PVC, and you can move these things anywhere you need. And the chickens, everybody wins, right? There are also amazing systems like a bucket, for instance. That a 5-gallon bucket, you put a little bit of, let's say a fish dies, or you find, a little mouse on the road dead, or you put some, anything that creates maggots, right? Maggots are protein-packed fish and chicken food. Right? So get the idea out of your head that maggots are bad. Maggots are beautiful. And you put little holes in the bottom of this 5-gallon bucket. This flies, and you put some hay on top, some straw on top of the decaying meat. And the flies come in, make their way through the straw, lay eggs in the meat. Those maggots find their way out and drop right into the chicken or fish tanks. You got free food all day long. It's just amazing what can be done. It comes with, there's several different layers of units. There's a super simple off-grid greenhouse unit with most of these things. And then we've got a higher end off-grid electrified unit that has the aquaponics system, and it also has the atmospheric water generator. I mean, these things create water, they suck it right out of the air. You only need about a 30% humidity, and you can make your own water. You do need electricity for that, and that's why we're also allowing, whoever wants can get solar panels, or they can hook it up to their house. I suggest solar panels because who knows when the grid will go down.
Or wind power.
Wind power is awesome. Wind is great. Water, if you're near a water, there's a lot of solutions with micro hydro that are no-brainers. That's the best one, by the way. Micro hydro is all year long as you got water flow, and it's all night long. So you don't have to have a battery bank, and battery banks are about half the cost.
Definitely. And Brian, anything else that Jim has missed that you'd like him to bring out here? Because obviously you guys have had many conversations.
I thought you said there was an aquaponics component too.
He did.
Fresh fish.
Yes. So what this system produces on 258 square feet of ground is veggies of dozens of kinds, fruits of between 10 and 20 kinds, chickens, eggs, and fish. All the food a family needs. Now, this is, obviously you don't push a button, it's gardening. So you have to be on it. Our revolution, our network is also going to be doing a lot of consulting and providing MA and microorganisms and all sorts of very organic and in a lot of cases easy to make yourself fertilizers and fungicides and things that are totally organic. You can actually drink this stuff, and it will do the job. And of course, this is gardening, so you have to do it. But it doesn't take long. You can operate the system on 30 to 45 minutes a day and have all the organic food that a family of 5 or 6 needs to survive. And
Jim, are you recycling the fish fecal matter into the plant systems too?
That's exactly how aquaponics works. It's a combination of hydroponics, which you have to put nutrients in for the plants, and aquaculture, which is just simply raising of aquatic life for food, right? And so the fish create the nutrients, and we also do or suggest that the buyers do a worm, California Reds injection, infusion, and those go into the lava rocks, and they help produce even more nutrition for the plants.
The other thing that people have to realize is that this system can work 365, 24/7. So it's incredibly productive. Now, so let's say the base unit, how many people would that feed off if there was no food supply? How many people would that feed?
5 to 6 would survive off of one unit with food and water.
That's incredible.
Isn't that? I mean, I'm really excited.
No, but I mean,
yeah.
the cost of it'll pay itself off in 6 months. I mean, it's a no-brainer, folks.
It is. We like to say a year.
You know what I've been reading? I read somewhere, I couldn't believe it, that the graveyards are going nuts because normally I hate to get graphic, but normally people decompose really well in a few years, and they usually switch graves out about every 40, 50 years. They're getting people, 50 years, they're not decomposed. We're so full of bloody preservatives from the food. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. We are just unbelievably toxified right now. And this system, it's worth its weight in gold. I cannot believe what Jim has done. Okay,
I can't.
There are a lot of people out there that are doing something similar, but they figured it out on their own. But this is great because people, we tend to live in a society where everything is kind of like IKEA, right? Let's take it out of a box and put it together. Well, that's what Jim has tried to do for people. He's basically, and he's going to you've got an instruction video coming too, right, Jim?
A series of them. Many, yes.
All right.
You got it all covered, man. It's amazing.
Let's take this even further, okay? You're talking about how much preservatives there are in the human body. Let's take that one step further, and let's take a trip to, and yeah, I'm about to say this, McDonald's. And for anybody who doesn't know, McDonald's is gasping, okay? They've closed down more stores globally in the last 2 years than you can possibly imagine. Well over 1,000 of them, okay? Because some smart scientist or researcher actually took their food and analyzed it, okay? And what you find out is that very little of it is actually food. It is preservatives. Right. It's preservatives, it's fillers. Oh, yeah. I mean, 10,000 years from now, when some archaeologist is digging up a hole somewhere, he's going to find chicken McNuggets and a cheeseburger, a McBurger, sitting in a hole somewhere looking like somebody just bought it. But what we are eating, and I'm just using that as an example, today is only a portion of edible food. The rest of it is MSGs, it's aspartame, and these are two things right off the top of my head, aspartame and MSGs, that are carcinogenic, that cause massive destruction to the body. And the U.S. government has been aware of this for 40 years and gives them a pass on this, okay? So your point, Brian, was brilliantly made. It really was. We are living in a society today where we fill our faces every single day, but only a small portion of what we're putting into our system is actually food. Jim, you've got the solution for that, right? Now, let's talk cost, and then I'll toss it back to you. You're talking about this paying for itself in a year. I'm telling you that the average American today goes to the grocery store 2 or 3 times a week to pick up something that they're hankering for that really isn't even food. If you compare the cost of putting together a system like yours, amortized over a year, compared to the way we, the most wasteful society, 40% of everything we buy, we throw out, okay, society on the planet, we're going to find out that your system is going to save us scads of money, even in the first year.
Yeah. And medical bills. I mean, I think a lot of enough said, right?
Yeah, okay.
Still alive again, folks. Eat real food.
I'm 46. Yeah, I'm 46, and I swear to God, I feel younger now than I did when I got to Costa Rica when I was 35.
You say we're talking about food, and Brian stresses the point we've got to be eating real food. There are a lot of people out there who detox their body from a lot of this crap that we're getting in our food. Okay, the GMOs, the glyphosate, whatever, so on and so forth. They detox their bodies from this stuff, and then they go to eating decent, what we call natural or organic food. And then they go to the tap and they pour a glass of water and they chug it down, and everything they've done is for nothing. So your system not only addresses the food issue, not only can it address the power issue, the energy issue, but it addresses the water issue. And this is the one that too many people ignore. This is the most critical thing of everything. We can live without food for almost a week. We can't live without water. We must consume water. We must hydrate. And if you're going to your damn tap, especially when I told you about the toxification or the toxicity of the municipal water supplies in America, it's 10 times worse in Europe. Their systems have been around for hundreds, if not thousands of years. So we're looking at the food. We're looking at being healthy by eating natural. People, wake up! The water's killing you. Don't tell me I'm eating organic, natural food so everything's good, and then I watch you go to your frickin' faucet and pour a glass of water and drink it because you're an idiot. You've done nothing.
Roger, these guys that grow organic food are using the same water often that you're drinking out of quality, right?
Yes.
So they're starting with good food. I mean, good seed, good soil maybe, somewhat natural, and of course, then we've got the geoengineering. That's all. This system is contained, it's protected, it's covered. So it's another asset.
Well, let me
just finish this thing about the supplements. How many people are spending hundreds of dollars a month trying to stay healthy with supplements, right?
Too many.
Yeah. I mean, look, you start eating real food, you detox with the real food. The microbes work properly. You get real water. You clean your body better. You start doing a little bit of exercise, maybe some yoga, do something to get your heart rate up, sweat a little bit, you clean your skin. This is not rocket science, folks. This is what we have to realize. All the solutions are simple, but we have to break the bad habits. That's the tough part.
Well, the solutions are simple, and the solutions are coming from the idea man, who is our special guest today, Jim Gale. And we want to talk a little bit about more about PermaCube, and this won't be the last show you're going to do with us, my friend.
Yeah.
And every time I bring Jim on, Brian, you're going to have to be here as my visiting co-host.
I love Jim. I love what he's doing. I'm a part of his team now. I'm promoting what he's doing.
You're part of the Liberty Beacon Project as
I'm
well,
also
Brian.
part of the Liberty Beacon Project. You didn't mention that in your intro, but
Hey, hi.
I am now.
I didn't actually put it in my bio, so that's probably why I didn't mention it. But yeah, no, I write for the Liberty Beacon, not as prolific as some of the people, but you see, my focus has always been on solutions. I don't want to talk about the problems. I know what the problems are. I want to talk about solutions, and there are other things. We got to come back on it, and we got to go through my practical guide to fixing this planet. It's full
We're
of
going to do that.
Good ideas, but we got to create teams of people to make it happen, because it ain't going to just happen because you and I are talking about it, right?
Right, but we will do a TV show.
Jim's loves some of my ideas, so he's going to help too, I'm sure.
We will do a TV show on the 15 steps, but right now, Jim, let's get a little bit further into making us independent, making us healthy without having to go to Big Pharma, without having to go to Monsanto or Syngenta, without having to go to anybody else, something that we can do. Look, the pioneers lived long, healthy lives, and they didn't have a corner supermarket or a pharmacy. So take that one step further for me, please, Jim.
Well, I want to talk about the corner supermarket and the big supermarkets. You said earlier that 40% of the food in the United States is thrown out, right?
Yes.
The numbers that I was researching when we were building our dehydrator for, I mean, they're just astronomical. Like you said, it can feed the world. Every single grocery store should have a dehydrator on their property, because here's what happens. The food gets rotten, and they know when it's going to get rotten. I mean, it's right on the edge. Right when it's on the edge, they have two choices. They either throw it away or they put it in a damn dehydrator. And guess
Or
what?
they mark the price way down so that you're the idiot who's going to buy it.
Yeah, and then it's rotten for you the next morning. And, you know, and some people actually benefit from that, right? Because they get to buy food that they otherwise couldn't buy, and it's probably okay for them. I think that's better than just throwing it out the door, right? But dehydrate it. Take that food a day before it gets really brown and nasty, and even under dehydration, those brown and nasty spots, they don't show. They're gone. You know, you kill that, whatever it is that's doing that, and you can store that broccoli and that cauliflower and those bananas. In fact, those brown bananas taste amazing dehydrated. So that's one thing that I've just thrown out there. Somebody's got to go with that. If you want our help, you know, call me up and I'll give you all the advice I can give you on it. But we got to start knocking on the doors of these big grocery store chains.
Well, we only have about 5 or 6 minutes left, actually maybe even a little bit less than that. So I'm going to start with Brian. I'm going to ask you, give us about 2 minutes of what you think people listening to this show or watching this show need to hear, and then we'll roll it over to you, Jim. We'll give you, I get the final word, but we'll give you the semi-final word, okay? Please, Brian.
One thing I want to say that hasn't been said yet, shipping of goods on the oceans, on land, is literally by itself killing this planet. 90,000 ships putting bulk, what is it called, bunker fuel? The worst fuel you can imagine, into their engines. It spews out acid rain. This is the reason the oceans are getting acidified, people. It's not from using your damn car in your driveway and going to work. It's the shipping industry. It's being hidden by the big oil and shipping magnates. And then they got to truck it all over the place when it lands. Folks, this is so ridiculous. We don't need to do this, especially for food. And we kind of need a few jobs too, right? It'd be nice if people had a place to work. And we can produce stuff here using natural methods, like bringing back hemp. We could pretty much make half of what we use now with hemp. And that's a big next step. Okay, I said enough.
I'm a big plus on the hemp issue. As a matter of fact, I'm seriously thinking of going into a partnership with someone in Colorado to start growing about 40 to 60 acres of hemp because it's legal. Yep, absolutely.
My
All right.
It's about hemp. It's about cannabis growing at home. In Canada, we're a little ahead of the field. Yeah.
Yes,
okay.
you are.
Much more.
All right. Not a problem. Great job. And right now, 2 minutes for you, my friend. Jim, give us a wrap up, and understand this is not the last time you're going to get to come on here and have a discussion with us.
All right. I'm looking forward to all the coming discussions. We need to do this. So I can't believe I didn't mention the fact that the average food in the United States comes from like 1,000 miles away. It's full of pesticides. The average apple has been sprayed 17 times. The average apple has, I think, it's just, the numbers are ridiculous as far as the nutritional content going down and the toxins and poisons going up is just astronomical. We wipe that out. We conserve 90-95% of the water. You can, on 258 square feet, produce all the food a family needs on less than an hour a day. And I guess what else can I say? I want to share this with the world, and I definitely want to let people know too that they can do this on their own. We are copying other great people. You got to copy and model what works, and go online. It's all there, folks.
Now, one quick question. Answer this as quickly as you can for me. When I put water into this system and it is cycled through the plants, it's cycled through the roots, it's cycled through the humus the soil and everything else, what you get back is pretty damn pure water, isn't it?
It's pure water. The fish live in it. And this system is self-regulating. If your fish are having problems, you know there's something wrong. If your plants are having problems, you know there's something wrong. It's a self-regulating system. Okay,
so we're looking at, right now, we're looking at a system that allows for the self-sustaining existence of humanity, that cuts our dependence from just about every big corporation out there, that allows us to make decisions, once again, on our own health. This, to me, is absolutely phenomenal. We're down to about a 1-minute mark here, so let me wrap this up by saying I've done a lot of shows. I've done a lot of political shows. I've done a lot of shows on military tyranny. I've done a lot of shows on, but these are all about the destruction of society and the planet. What you and Brian and I have discussed today are positive mechanisms and positive maneuvers that we can take part in to actually reverse this entire scenario. I want to thank you both for being here. You're two gentlemen I look up to in a huge fashion. You're both a part of the Liberty Beacon project, as we are a part of your projects, and we will do our damnedest to make sure that everybody is aware of the good deeds and the good work that you are both doing. I look forward to having more shows with you in the future. Brian, we've done them before. We'll do them again. Jim, this is your first time out of the gate, but I'm extremely pleased. You're a hell of a guest, and you don't hold back, and that endears you to me beyond what you could believe. For everybody listening, this has been another episode of Eradicating Programmed Ignorance, brought to you by the Liberty Beacon Project and broadcast on our great friends at CCN, Conscious Consumer Network. Please go there. If it wasn't for donations from people like you and me, they would not exist. Let's help them out. We wish you all a very, very great evening or day, whatever it might be, where you're at. And again, thank you for listening. Good night.
Thank you for tuning into CCN. This unique network is dedicated to free and independent media. CCN was created with the belief that information is the common heritage of all beings, which is why our live stream high-definition broadcast is easily accessible and free to view. If we want to change the world, we must first change the media. Having produced over 1,000 shows in 2015, which are all archived on YouTube, we look forward to bringing you more groundbreaking, cutting-edge information in 2016. For more information on what is on, please check out our broadcast guide for weekly updates. CCN broadcasts in multiple languages and features some key voices of our challenging times who are all in pursuit of a free, fair, just, sustainable world. CCN belongs to you, the people, and it is up to you all to keep this network on the air. Please contribute to the Network Support Fund or visit the CCN shop. We thank you all for supporting free and independent media.